I'm about to do an hour's coaching with Ryan, a 1000 iRating racer who I know from the Sim Racing magazine community, to see whether I can make him faster. He's kindly volunteered for this because I'm testing and refining my approach to coaching so I can start offering it to the wider iRacing community. Ryan's choice of car and track is the Porsche GT3 at Daytona Road because he has a race coming up there soon and wants to see if he can sharpen things up a bit.
Actually, pretty interesting to find out how people sort of wind their way into sim racing. I presume that you kind of heard about it through the Porsche Club and you kind of stuck with them, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always played sort of driving games and that, and all the way from sort of BBC Micro playing F1 pole position, and it's gone on from there. But
Crikey,
when they
yeah.
started doing the Porsche Club stuff, I had a Logitech wheel and that, and I'm sitting here behind a Simi Cube and triple 32, so it sort of escalated quite quickly.
Yeah, it gets you by surprise, don't it? It really, really
Oh.
does. If you ain't careful, you turn around one day and go, what the heck has happened in this room?
Fortunately, I've got an understanding wife, so.
Well, it's because they see the smile on your face and they know that, you know, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's a lot safer than cycling, that's the way I put it.
Oh, we don't go there. Yeah, I used to do a lot of mountain biking until I fell off and I landed on the head, broke my collarbone.
It's all fun and games until somebody gets knackered up.
An hour is not very long, but my approach is straight to the point. For the first 15 minutes, I'll follow Ryan on track and try to get an idea of his general behaviour, like watching someone over their shoulder while they work. This can help give context to the raw data I'll be looking at later.
General flow, as I said in the message, is at first, if you want to take the lead, just kind of get into a flow, warm up, do some laps. These help me observe you from basically a tail end position, and it kind of gives me an idea as to where you might be most at a deficit. So if you spin out or have an incident or anything like that, and you have to reset back to the pits, that's totally fine. I will also do it. That keeps us in sync with the state of the car and stuff like that. So don't worry if you have an incident or anything like that. That's all par for the course. Now there are only about 5 corners on Daytona, but are there any corners that are particularly bad for you that you feel like you just don't have much confidence going into them?
The next right-hander, I'm struggling picking like this corner, a braking point. I'm just getting the car turned in.
Gotcha, no problem.
The next right-hander as well. It's just getting the right braking point.
Yeah, they're quite woolly, aren't they? They're very much stick your finger in the air and feel where the wind's blowing. That's part of the difficulty of this track. I find it quite difficult to define the features.
As I follow him, it would seem that he is at a general deficit on almost every corner. There's not many turns at Daytona, but there are a good handful of them of a certain type that highlight an overall fundamental problem. Although we're running the same car and setup, he's often struggling to get the car turned into the apex. His car looks heavier somehow. Whatever he's doing that's causing it, the telemetry will reveal, but from the looks of it, it's something embedded in his overall approach. That's good news because fixing it could crack bags of lap time loose almost everywhere he goes. After the 15-minute tandem running, it's time for us to separate on track so there's no distracting each other and set a clean, representative lap to capture some juicy telemetry, essentially a qualifying run.
So forget I'm here, I'll be on the other side of a track somewhere also doing the same, and then we'll take those telemetry bits. We're under the same conditions, our cars have been running the same amount of time, and so on and so forth. So go for it. I'll be quiet now for a good 10 minutes.
My time is a 1:46.02 and Ryan's is a 1:47.12. Good, there should be something enlightening to share. After collecting the data, it's time to peek into it. I'm using Motec to do this on this occasion. It's not my first choice because it makes my head hurt. I'd rather use VRS if I could, but I digress. Within a few minutes, I see something that might just be the root cause of Ryan's lap time shortfall.
And I can see that you might have something in the. Do you have your brake pedal calibrated so that it never goes above 80%?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it was better for me.
Yeah, much better for you. That's all that matters. If it's better for you, that's all that matters.
Something I do struggle with is the trail braking.
Ryan's using Husing valve pedals, which, like many pedals nowadays, can be tweaked to limit the maximum percentage detected. The telemetry gives it away, but he's got a hard limit in place at 80%, meaning no matter how hard he presses the brake, it will never read more than that, and it appears he's routinely hitting that limit. The reason someone would do this, and I've read numerous examples of people doing it, so he's definitely not alone, is to try and mask excess braking, like having the guardrails up at the bowling alley to prevent gutter balls. Comparing my telemetry against Ryan's in the turns where he seems to struggle the most, he's braking later and harder, regularly hitting that 80% cap, whereas I typically only push to 60 or 70%. I brake earlier than he does, but softer. Because he's braking more aggressively, it's causing the ABS to cut in a lot more for him than it does for me. And if you're trying to trail brake into a corner, you don't want the ABS intervening in a big way.
When you go into turn 1, do you feel as though you're braking as hard as you can and that you're cutting into that 80% limit?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
And do you see any ABS lights come up on the dash?
Oh, yeah, I get the twinkling light.
Well, I think that could be an explanation as to what's happening there. Because I think if you got
the ABS.
Yeah, if you got your ABS cutting in quite a lot, it can probably drag your car wide because it's trying to sort it out. So although you've got that hard stop limit at the top, it would definitely benefit you to learn to live without it. If that just means sort of changing the response curve of the brakes. But yeah, I think that might be causing what you were describing. As in, you're braking the same times and same points on the track as I am. Saved. I reckon that turn 1 is different for us because you're using all of that 80% and I might actually only be doing about 60% because it's a corner where you're braking and turning. You can't use all of the braking capacity. If you try and do that in ABS cars, then it will send you wide, and in a really, really fast 6-gear braking zone like that, it does what you're describing, I think. Yeah, I don't think I'm going over 50% for that. So
I'm looking at the lights as well. So yeah, I actually saw 3 lights. So
yeah, I reckon that might be. It's the most obvious thing I can pick at, having seen the telemetry and knowing that you do go there and on turn 1. I think you're using all of a car's ability to brake in a straight line, but you're doing it in a curved braking zone, and that means you've got to back off a bit. It might also be what's happening here as well. So I'm probably using about maybe 60%. I'm glancing down at my brake bar when I do that, but it feels to me like about 60% in turn 1 and that turn just then. So you might want to try braking earlier but softer, and you might find that you actually get a lot of that front end back that you're missing.
Of all the things holding Ryan back, I believe that 80% hard cap he has set on his brake pedal is at the top of the list just for the psychological effect it has, causing a false sense of security that's probably leading him to abuse the brake pedal, and it needs to go. He could reduce the hard cap to 70% and get some benefit just by doing that, but I'd much rather he do away with the limit altogether and instead work on dialing in his braking leg. It will do wonders in the long term. With Husing valve pedals, he has all the necessary hardware to do it too. There's nothing holding him back but himself.
But I reckon that you come up to turn 1, you're hitting your brake marks, you're using that 80% because it's a hard braking zone. But in ABS cars, in a non-ABS car, you just lock up and go straight ahead. But in an ABS car, it might prevent you from locking up, but obviously it means you're just going to go wide, and it's robbing you of that turning force that you so badly need. That's one big thing there. So I think your own personal development really hinges on getting a better brake feel. So you might just have to up the force on your housing belts. The biggest fish to fry in your instance is sort of coming off of that that safety barrier that you've got there that's
Right.
helped you so far, but I think you've probably outgrown it now, and you can work without it. And if you learn to do that, then you'll start to drop the temps, and suddenly the car will feel like it'll turn. Because I did notice that when I was tailing you at the very start of the session, that you would sort of inexplicably kind of go wide when it felt like there was no real kind of need to. But now that I've seen your brake trace in the initial telemetry, I can understand why. So I reckon that is the biggest thing that's holding you back right now,
Okay.
is try and develop some nuance in your braking foot, tweak the housing valves so that it's not so easy to go over that 80% naturally.
In summary, Ryan needs to spend a bit of time calibrating his pedals to better suit him, do away with the hard cap, brake a little earlier and a little softer to cool things down on corner entries. These things are all interlinked and all occur on corner entry, so if he makes the changes I've highlighted, he'll find the ABS interferes less and understeer will become a smaller issue for him, and the lap times will fall once that bakes in. I believe there's anywhere up to 0.5 of a second improvement at Daytona alone, and huge gains to be had everywhere else too. I can see other things that need work if he is to improve, but it's best to focus on the biggest thing first and then reassess after the dust settles. Making big changes to your driving approach can often make you slower before it makes you faster, so I'll be offering some support afterwards too. It's down to him now to apply what I've said, but I'll check up with him in a little while and put an update in the pinned comment. And I want to thank Ryan for donating some of his time and being a great sport. I'll be posting more coaching excerpts as I go, and when my process is nice and watertight, I'll open the books for anyone who fancies it to. Subscribe to this channel and ding that bell thing so you don't miss any videos. Thank you.